Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Hello, everybody. I am Jason Weiss. I am here on the Ask Jason Weiss show. I am a practicing attorney turning coach. And again, nothing on this show is to be deemed legal advice. There is no attorney-client relationship formed by you watching this show. I am not giving you legal advice. I am not your attorney. I am here just to talk about the law in general. There is no specific advice. Please rely on nothing that I say as legal advice. So with all of that being said, and my transition slowly out of the law into full-time coaching, I have with me one of my dear friends and one of the people that I have turned to for advice in my legal career. His name is David Block, and he is a recruiter for Hurtner, Block, and Bowser. And for any of you attorneys out there that are just not 100% thrilled in your job position or looking for a change, I can hands down say, this is the guy. Why is this the guy? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one is you can trust this man 110%. This man is an attorney, so anything you tell him is confidential and he can't go around. And also he's just an awesome all-around guy. And I attribute my success from listening to David from something that he told me early on. And what did he tell me early on? I'll let you know that in a second or two after I give David 30 seconds to a minute to just introduce himself. So without any further ado, David Block.
Welcome, everybody. It's thank you, Jason, for the very, very, very warm welcome. I feel the same way about Jason. Wonderful person, first and foremost. And I think that's the most important thing is working with Jason. If somebody does in the future, you'll find out that he's just a really good person and coach extraordinaire, hopefully in the near future. So my background, I went to law school at the University of Miami, graduated in 1992. So I'm aging myself here. Go you, the you. Not doing so well in football right now, but to come. They're on the mend and coming up. So after I graduated in 1992, I practiced law for a few years, realized it wasn't what I was meant to do. And I had seen an ad in the paper for a legal recruiting position. And as Jason had mentioned, the name of my firm is Hurtner, Block, and Bowser. Herb Hurtner was my mentor in the business. Herb retired about 10 years ago when I had taken over the practice from him. But I've been doing legal recruiting now for about almost 25 years. And when I met Jason many, many moons ago, after he had been out of law school, probably how many years?
I was a year and a half out of school.
Year and a half out of school. And my advice to him at the time, and my advice stays the same to this day, is be a rainmaker, because then you have choices.
So let's get into that right away, David. I don't mean to interrupt you. This show is called What Are You Worth as an Attorney? So I remember sitting in an office downtown Fort Lauderdale, not thrilled with the law, not thrilled with what it was making, not thrilled with anything. And I saw an ad and I called David. And David started up by, you know what, I really don't work with people with less than 2 or 3 years experience. That's not it. But he gave me his time. And I listened to everything that David said. And believe it or not, he actually helped me, even though I was less than 2 years out. So go ahead and transition to a job. And something that I've used when I'm speaking to younger attorneys, when I was teaching at Nova and St. Thomas and teaching law school, that resonated with me from David was, what are you worth as an attorney? What is your value? Anybody could sit there and push paper. Anybody can go on Westlaw and research. But how do you set yourself apart from other attorneys? And I thought about that question. And David's answer was spot on. And I'm not going to steal his thunder because I can't take credit for it. So, David, do you remember what you told me 19 years ago?
Well, not exactly, but I can kind of guess what I told you is always be generating business. It's the key. The practice of law is a business, right? So if you're going to be practicing law, the reason we're always looking in the legal recruiting business, we are always looking for generators, business generators, rainmakers. And why is that? Because you have choices when you're a rainmaker. And I told Jason something to that effect. Jason, tell me what I told you actually.
You told me you're only as good as your book of business, because you can go ahead and you could do research and you could write and you could service other people's clients, but you need to be able to stand on your own. And the only way you're going to be able to stand on your own or be attractive to other people is by having a book that will follow you. And that's something that for the lawyers that are listening to the show, book of business, we all know what that is. David, you want to tell for the non-lawyers what a book of business is?
So what a book of business is the origination of clients where someone or someone, as Jason, he's an attorney. I'm a former attorney, if you will. You get business from, let's say it's a large company and they're looking for someone to handle a litigation matter that came up. And they're asking Jason to handle the litigation matter because that's what he's done in the past. And they heard from a friend that he does good work. So they engage him. And now you do this with many different companies or many different, can be a mom or pop business. It doesn't matter. The fact is, if generating business means you're taking the time and your time is money, of course, you're taking the time to look over a case, make sure it's worthwhile of your time. And then they're paying you as the attorney, either a retainer or on a contingent fee basis, an amount of money to be able to handle their case for them. And the more business you're able to generate from X number of clients, the better off you're going to be in the future, because there are some attorneys, Jason, that'll go to St. Thomas, which is maybe not the highest rated law school in the world, or a fourth tier school, if you will. And they'll come out of law school and they may not have as many opportunities as someone who went to a top 50 law school. But two things can happen. You can get, if you're in the top of your class at a fourth tier school, you generally should be able to find a position, no problem, when you're first out of law school. And then what I was always told as a recruiter, this goes back to Herb Hertner, the founder of the company. He said, law firms and corporations look at three things: where you went to law school, who you've been trained by, and do you have a book of business? And the last thing there, do you have a book of business? Do you have a practice that you can take over? Let's say you're 5 years out of law school, but you're starting to generate business. You are going to be, even though you went to a fourth tier school, if you have 200,000 in business and Jason Weiss went to Harvard Law School and he doesn't have any business and he's just just handles
a worker.
Down the road, you're going to have so much more potential to get to a higher level firm or a firm that you want to, or go out on your own, if you will, because you have the business generation abilities. And it's not easy to generate business. If someone is shy or introverted, you have to be able to break out of that mold. You have to be able to go out and talk to people, let them know what you do, right? If you're at a function with friends, if you're at a golf function or just you got the movies with some new, people you're meeting for the first time, let them know what you do. They may say, oh, my cousin Bill has a case. Do you know anything about this area? And you may say, no, but I can introduce you to someone who does. And if you introduce someone to Bill, your friend who does corporate securities work, they're going to remember you next time, and they're going to give you at some point a litigation case if you're a litigator. So it's all about talking with people, conversing, letting them know what you do and it goes, as I said to Jason many years ago, it all goes back to being a generator, business generator, rainmaker, because you have more choices when you're a rainmaker. If you have $1 million book of business, the biggest law firms in the world are a $2 million book of business. They're not going to care where you went to law school. They don't really. It doesn't matter at that point where you went to law school.
And I can attest for that firsthand. There's a massive firm that I interviewed with when I got right out of law school. Dude, a family connection got me in, and everybody liked me and everybody loved me. But I didn't get straight A's in law school. We'll put it to you that way. And I had 1 or 2 letters that law firm wouldn't do it. You had a B- or a C+ in a class. You're no longer eligible, and it hurt and it made me feel like crap, and I get it. And then years later, when I developed my own book of business, that same law firm came looking at me. And they were able to get past the fact that I had a C on my transcript from my first year of law school when I took an exam, and it was during the funeral of my grandfather. But that's another story for another day. But all of a sudden, I became attractive to them. Why? Because I had $250,000 worth of business, $300,000 worth of business. And at that point in time, I didn't have a need for them. So I said, no, thank you. Now, one of the things that, David, that you said that I want to touch on is when you were talking about meeting people at a function, you quickly move from function to the movies to going out. One of the places where I got my clients were from doing activities that I liked. David used to make fun of me, but I played kickball, adult kickball, the World Association of Adult Kickball. And I picked up 3 clients from there, business owners and people that, their families had properties and all of that. So, like David said, you don't have to be at a bar function or a marketing event or a CLE. Just do it. You got kids? Do it at their kid's birthday party. David's got kids. He markets himself at what? Baseball, gymnastics.
Any function I can. Baseball, gymnastics, hockey, football. Your kids' friends, if you don't have kids, obviously it'll be some other function, but Jason's 100% right about that. You get the most interest from other people when you're at a same function at the same time. So whether it's some type of sporting event or band or something where you can be with other parents who are always, they're potential clients. Any of these people that you're speaking with are truly potential clients, because you never know when they're going to come up and say, hey, I heard you do litigation work, or I heard you do corporate work or real estate work. Do you think you can help me with this? And then you help them, you do a good job with them, they're referring you to somebody else. And that's where it starts. It's all a matter of expanding your client base, and doing that is just talking with more people. And again, if you're at a sporting event, some parents, you'll want to talk all day. Some parents just want to watch their kids. But at some point, you'll have a chance to speak with those parents who just want to, see their kids play, and there'll be a halt in the action, and you'll say something like, "Oh, it was a bad call," and whatever. You'll start up a conversation, and it'll go from there. So it doesn't have. You're typically, Jason was talking about a bar function. You're typically not going to get business at a bar function or at a judge's event. It's just not going to happen.
And why, David? Why wouldn't you get it at a function or a bar event?
Everybody thinks that's where they're gonna generate business, but you're talking with other attorneys and they're trying to do the same thing. So how are you gonna differentiate yourself? Maybe if you're at the bar function with a crown on your head or something to, again, differentiate yourself.
Well, let's talk about that. Differentiate yourself. So you're at the baseball game and you're speaking to a parent, and the parent turns to you and says, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "I'm a lawyer." You're not going to get business that way.
No, that doesn't
What
describe
would you recommend for, an attorney who's hungry to get business? What would you recommend for him or her to do?
What I would say is, I'm a practicing attorney. I handle litigation matters, any type of contracts, make it more broad-based. So and most people, if they're laymen, they're not going to know, a real estate contract from a M&A agreement. So they may ask you, well, does that include, do you do marital law, family law? Do you do labor employment law? I just got screwed over at my job. They haven't been paying me for overtime, whatever it might be. That they might be anything like that. It's all potential for business.
So would you recommend, like an elevator pitch?
I think it has to just come more naturally than an elevator pitch. I mean, you could have some functions of an elevator pitch, but the more natural you come off, the more people are going to gravitate towards you.
Right. And I know I used to try different elevator pitches, and it was quick. What do you do? I solve problems. What do you do? I do puzzles. What do you do? I, represent individuals that, suffer from physical disabilities. It was always, and it was, and I'll get into this, after the break, but it's the practice of law. It's also the practice of generating business.
It's the practice of business.
Exactly. Go out, see what works. I remember one time I stood up in a room and I said, have you ever seen Scandal? Have you ever seen Pulp Fiction? Have you ever seen, Breaking Bad? You know who the fixers are? That's what I am. I'm a fixer. And oh my God, what does that mean? Do you have a baseball bat in your trunk?
Fantastic. Yeah.
It worked. And I got people's attention. And that's what I think you need to do. You need to really just differentiate yourself from every other lawyer out there, because we can all do work. We can all do pleadings. We can all do research. But why does somebody want to hire us? They want to hire us because we have the ability to make rain, and they want to hire us because, we're a good attorney. And you got to balance that. You got to balance keeping your employer or your firm happy, and you got to balance keeping your client happy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick break. And David and I will be back in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Before the break, just one thing. Just know your audience. If you're at a sporting event, Jason would say I've represented athletes, professional athletes. So just know your audience is part of it.
And we're going to get back to that and follow up with that right after this break. But this is David Block. That's his phone number, 305-556-8882, extension number 1. And if you're an attorney looking to maybe clean up your resume, find something else, see if there's something else, in-house gig, blah, 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 look no further. This is the guy to go to. So we'll go to commercial break, and we're going to be back about know your audience, and we'll follow up with that right after this. And we are back. I'm Jason Weiss. I'm joined here today again by David Block, who is a legal recruiter. And he was also somebody that, helped me, thrive in the legal profession. So one of David's things that he mentioned right before the break was, to know your audience. So, and that's really good. And that's good for if you're trying to get clients, if you're interviewing somewhere, if you're, going in front of a judge, to know your audience. So David, explain what that would mean to, somebody in the legal field, know your audience. What do you mean?
So know your audience quote is something that we've used in the past with legal recruiting. And it's particularly true when you're, let's say you're at your kid's event. Because I keep going back. I have 4 kids, so I keep going back to kids' events because I meet people all the time who I have referred many people business over the years just because of not only what I do, because I tell them I know the top attorneys in whatever area you want it, whatever area you need. I know professional liability attorneys. I know corporate securities attorneys, M&A, real estate. So whatever it is, I can help someone with, if they're looking for a real estate attorney, I know somebody. If they're looking for a litigator, Jason Weiss. If they're looking for someone who handles contracts, Jason Weiss, or if they're looking for an M&A attorney, I could, name 4 or 5 other people that they can look for.
What about the truth? Yesterday we said that we needed somebody that needed to do lien law. I'm not comfortable enough in lien law. David and I would brainstorm, and boom, we got a name of somebody, and David's going ahead and hooking them up. So it's one of the things that that David also told me is just when you're knowing your audience, know when to speak and know when to listen. I'm a speaker. I like to talk. But David will tell me, look, you're going to meet with this in-house counsel for this gig. Go ahead, listen. She likes to speak. She likes to, you make sure you're listening. Listen. So I shut my mouth. So David, do you only handle Florida? Do you handle the U.S.? What area do you handle?
So I'd say 95% of my recruiting is in the Florida area, particularly in the Tri-County area, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. But I have, I guess you can say my specialty or my niche is that I get a lot of in-house opportunities with companies throughout not only Florida, but companies that have offices throughout the U.S. I've recently done a search in Texas, California, Colorado, North Carolina, New York. But again, those are.
I remember Canada being in there too.
we were trying to help a Canadian company as well. But most of the business that I do with corporations and law firms are they are mostly in Florida, 95%, I'd say.
And one thing that I want to stress for some of the newer lawyers or people that are thinking about being lawyers, David doesn't take a fee from the lawyer. If I want to hire somebody, then I hire David and I pay David a success fee. But if I'm looking for a job, I don't have to pay David for that. And one of the phenomenal things about using a recruiter is my resume is top notch. I have the background when I go in. I know everything that I need to know, and I'm armed and ready. And David coaches you. He walks through. He'll do a mock interview with you. So this is just like the hands-on guy, and he really focuses. But the one thing I'm going to say is, and then I can say this from personal experience, the privilege information, the confidentiality is there, because I know when I was interviewing in the past, when I was, not working for myself, my biggest fear, David, what's most candidates' biggest fears?
It's that your name's going to be out there as someone who's looking for a position.
And how do you alleviate that very real fear?
Sure, it's definitely a real fear, and people ask me. I've been doing this for 25 years, and people still to this day say, I just got someone this morning that said, "Of course, the submission will be confidential, right?" I said, "Of course," and the reason being is we know the people that we're working with, the law firms, the corporations, and they know that everything has to be kept strictly confidential. I think in my 25 years, there may be less than maybe 2 or 3 times when something went afoul, and that I don't even know if it was 2 or 3 times. So when you're working with a recruiter, they know, and the candidate can be confident that their information will be held strictly confidential unless they want it to be out there that you can call as a referral, you can call XYZ attorney, they know me, they know my work. That's in case you want that to be out there, that because if you're at an interview and the interviewer says, "Oh, I know Bob Johnson over at XYZ firm," and you worked with Bob Johnson in the past and you had a great relationship with him, you might say, "Yeah, you can call Bob. I think you'd say nice things about me." So
but if you're currently working for Bob Johnson,
yeah, then of course we're going to keep that confidential.
Yeah.
Another thing about working with a recruiter, and I will say not all recruiters are the same. I've been doing this for a long time, so I've looked at thousands and thousands of resumes. So any resume that a candidate says to me, I tell them, "Listen, I'll take a look at the resume, send it to me in Microsoft Word so I can play with it a little bit." There's never been a perfect resume. Not even mine is perfect, I'm sure. So I'm always able to at least pick up a couple things on a resume to make it better. And I send it back to the person. And at the very least, if nothing else came of it, they have a better looking resume the next day. Yes, we do help. We coach them on how to handle certain questions that interviewers ask you. That's important because some people have a difficult time with the compensation question, or they have a difficult time with, why do you want to leave your current position? When they go for an in-house position, we help them handle that question. Why do you want to go in-house? Because going in-house and practicing in a law firm, I've always been told by GCs who have been in their positions for a while that working in-house is so different than working at a law firm. It's just night and day. And, I ask them why, and it's just the work that you have at a working for one company, whether it's a giant company or a smaller company, it's just a lot different than working with different, many different, whether it's mom and pops or many different clients in general. You're working for one client. So there's different tricks of the trade, if you will, that we can always discuss, if you were to call me.
So I have a question for you, David. You went to law school. When I went to law school, it ran me about $80,000 to $90,000 in debt. So I go to law school, and so I'm going to assume you spent the same. You go $80,000 in debt. You're practicing law for a year or two, and all of a sudden it dawns on you, oh snap! I don't like being a lawyer because, and you can fill in the blank. I don't like going to court. I don't like confrontation. What went through your mind? Like, oh my God, I'm a failure. Oh my God, I don't want to tell my parents. I don't want to be a lawyer. Like, how did you justify it to yourself, your family, your friends, everybody else that I went to law school 3 years, I practiced law, I don't want to do it anymore. Oh my God. Like, what went through your mind?
So it's definitely a stressful time if you come to that conclusion that you don't want to practice anymore. Mine was fairly quickly out of law school. Um, Probably 2 or 3 years, like you said, out of law school, I said, this isn't what I want to do long term. I want to find, what I like to do, what my passion is. I did like the fact that legal recruiting, it's part of the law firm profession, if you will, or the legal profession, because there's, bits about it, that I have to know as a legal recruiter, many different terms to be able to speak intelligently to clients. But when I made that decision that I wasn't going to practice anymore, first thing I thought was my parents, helped me with my first year of law school. I was like, oh man, how am I going to tell them? I took out loans for the rest of law school. So I said, okay, I'm good with, myself, not having to practice anymore. I'm good with telling people, I went to law school and I didn't love it anymore, and I'm doing something else or wanted to do something else. It was just, dealing with my parents, and they were 1,000% supportive of me. They wanted me to be happy first and foremost. And that's what I would say to people. What's going to do to make you happy? And if that's, being a bartender, doing this, doing that, whatever it is that's going to make you happy, you're going to do something full time, for a long hours in the day. You want to be happy with what you're doing. And if you're not, then you have to think, deep inside, is it something that I can walk away from, or I have too much invested in the legal field, and maybe it's just a practice area, or maybe it's the firm that I'm working at. Then you have to go in that direction where you may have to stay in the profession, just find another area, or find something else to do. Maybe it's staying in the profession and being the administrative partner there, where you're just practicing law. Maybe you don't like going out and generating business. Maybe it's doing more administrative work for the firm. It can be that as well. So it's not always, not everyone's going to be a rainmaker. It just doesn't happen. But when we started this conversation earlier today, the fact is, if you are a rainmaker, you have more choices. And what do I mean by that? So we were just in COVID hit 2020. A lot of firms laid off, and they laid off people who were, sometimes whether if they laid off a partner, it was basically likely because they didn't have a book of business. They were a service partner. And if you're always going to be a service partner, not generate business, there's always the chance in the future, even if you're a fantastic, whatever you're doing as a service partner, that you may get laid off because you're not as quote unquote valuable. Jason was talking about value to the firm as someone who's generating $2-3 million book of business. Some firms, in fact, will take a partner who might be a jerk with a $3 or $4 million book of business that I would never want to work with. But, again, the law firm, it's a business. And if it's going to help out a specific law firm, they'll find some people who will work for that jerk partner. And a lot of times it's in the big law firms. I always ask myself, how do they get the business if they're a jerk? But they're smart enough to know how to do that.
And one of the things that David could talk confidentially about is, hey, look, I'm going to interview at, Smith, and Smith, and I'm going to work for the Smith, partner. What do you know about the Smith partner? And David will be able to tell you, oh, she's a phenomenal person, or, she is, not a great person, or make sure not to talk about this, or so you go in there fully armed and ready, fully educated, fully prepped. And that's what being an attorney is all about, getting your book of business, knowing your audience. And that's it. So David, I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
Favorite sport, Favorite team and why?
Favorite sport is hard because I'm a big sports fan, but I would say it would be NFL football. There's only one team in New York, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And I know Jason's a big Giants fan, but there's only one team in New York, so we should all love the Bills if we're from New York. But I also like hockey. I also like the Sabres, and so I root for my Buffalo teams.
So David is Buffalo, born and raised. That's probably why he's also such a good guy, even though, the Giants, they're not great this year, but I'm still a Giants fan. I'm not going to lie. Like we started, I'm Jason Weiss. Hopefully by the time I see you all again in 2 weeks, my AskJasonWeiss.com will be fully functional, but it is up and running. It's AskJasonWeiss.com. You can check it out right now. It's just some calendaring and scheduling, and I'd love to chat with you. And more importantly for today, we have David Block from Hertner, Block, and Bowser. It's legalrecruiting.com. His phone number is 305-556-8882, and he's extension 1. And again, just the pitfalls and the positives of being an attorney, in-house counsel gigs, wanting to change, wanting to leave the practice, just wanting to get your resume looking great. That's what David is for. Don't abuse that privilege. Work with him, make sure. But he is in my opinion, the go-to guy when it comes to wanting to make a transition within the law. Any last parting words, David, for the audience?
Well, I think Jason will definitely make a fantastic coach. He's already, I know he's already been a teacher at several, a couple different law schools. So, if you're in a transition phase and you're not sure what to do, I would 100% or 1,000% call Jason, because he's going to help you in many different ways, help you think differently, think about things from both sides and which direction you may want to go and how you can get there. And he's always had great advice for me. He's always been my attorney, so I can also say that as well. And he also provides just sage advice to anybody and anybody who needs it. He's a great friend, and that's why we work so well together.
Well, I thank you, David. And again, any of the lawyers listening out there want to find something new, not happy, want to merge with a firm, hey, look, you could have a thriving practice, but you don't want to be in the office every single day. David is that person, and we didn't get to talk about it, but hopefully I'll have him back in a couple of weeks or soon, where we can talk about, mergers, acquisitions. I mean, David does those all the time. A small firm wants to go join a big firm and make money, and David's your guy. So again, David, legalrecruiting.com. David, I thank you so much. I wish your Bills the best of luck this weekend. My Giants will need more than luck this weekend. And I also, as always, I just want to thank Cece. She is awesome for allowing me to do this. Cece, thank you so much. And everybody just have a wonderful day.
And thank you, Jason.